Hey, welcome back to Buckeye Barbecue. Thanks for joining us today. So if you're like many, including myself, you buy lunch meat at the local deli, the local grocery store. Well, you can certainly do it yourself. And today we're going to do roast beef, maybe make a sandwich out of it. So thanks for joining, and we're going to get started. If you haven't already done so, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. That would be greatly appreciated. And if you're so inclined, like this video. And if you've ever done your own lunch meat, go ahead and make a notation of that in the comments, and I will try to answer those. Thanks a lot, and let's get started. Okay, so I'm using an eye of round roast. I think the eye of round does a great job for this. You could also use a bottom round. Either one would work. And I am going to trim it up. We don't want all of this fat silver skin on the meat. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but this isn't going to cook long enough for that fat to render, and it's not like we're going to slow cook this like a brisket. So I'm just going to get the bulk of it off. A good sharp knife is your friend here, for sure. Again, does not have to be perfect. Should have put something under my cutting board. I'm struggling here with my cutting board moving. Obviously, you want to try to leave as much of the meat as possible, but if some comes off, it's fine. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Okay, we're getting there. We're close. Okay, I think that's pretty good. So I'm gonna get rid of these trimmings. And next we are going to inject our eye of round. I made the injection off camera just because it's pretty simple and you can sort of make it your own. So I just used some beef broth along with some garlic, some thyme, some oregano, fresh garlic and garlic powder, and a little bit of onion powder. So I'm just gonna do kind of a grid, make a little pocket there so it doesn't squirt out at me like that just did. And just go about every inch. And just do the whole thing. Just to get some moisture and some flavor in there. Then once you get to a certain point, you can turn it and continue. I'm going to stop talking now and just do this. That way I can, when I do the video, I'll just fast forward. Okay, and now I'm gonna season the outside of this. You can use whatever you want. Straight salt and pepper would be fine. A brisket rub that you like would be good. I actually have some Pit Barrel Cooker beef and game rub, and I really like this rub. So I'm going to use it on this. And just rotate it, try to do every side completely. There we go, and this is ready to go on the cooker. We're going to do this on the rotisserie on the Weber kettle. So we will bring you back when we put it on. Okay, so I went ahead and put the eye of round on the spit. I showed that, I believe, on video with my pork loin. It's just a matter of lining it up and getting the spikes through it so it won't move. So I decided not to do that on the video. I am going to insert a meter probe. This is a wireless thermometer, and it's really a nice option for when you have the rotisserie going, because it's impossible to put a wired probe. So I'm just going to stick this in close to the center as possible. I don't want to hit the bar. So something like that will be good. And we are going to get this out on the Weber kettle rotisserie. So I will bring you back for that. All right, so we're going to get the eye of round on the rotisserie. So I'm just going to get that through there. Everything is super hot, so you definitely have to be careful. This kettle is running between 400 and 450 degrees. Probably a little bit hotter than I want it, but I'll dial back the vents and bring it down a little bit. I've got most of the coals set up to be indirect with regard to the meat. I don't want the heat right on top of the meat. There is no point in really doing this low and slow though. There's not a lot of fat to render or anything like that. So if you want to get a little smoke, you can do it a little slower, but I'm not worried too much about that either with this particular cut. So I'm going to get the kettle lid back on, and we're just going to watch that temperature until it gets somewhere between 132 and 135. That's a little warmer than I like my beef typically, but for this purpose, for like a deli sliced meat, I like it to be a little bit more done. It's a personal preference thing, so cook it to whatever temperature you like. So I thought I'd bring you back real quick. We're right around 90 degrees internal temperature right now. The cooker is running right at 350 degrees, so I did bring that temperature down. I have added a chunk of hickory wood just to add a little smoke flavor. I love hickory with beef. So let's take a look. All right, looks great. The spit is running smoothly. It's not off balance and turning smoothly. I love the little bit of crust that's forming on the outside. So I'm really happy with this right now. We're just going to continue to monitor it and pull it off when it hits around 135, something like that. So we'll bring you back. Okay, personally, I love a good creamed horseradish sauce with a roast beef sandwich. So I'm going to make a horseradish sauce here. I've got a half a cup of sour cream to start with. I've got a little Dijon mustard. I've actually got Coleman's mustard, which is a pretty pungent mustard, and some prepared horseradish that I'm going to put in. Grinding your own horseradish is actually really good, but I didn't have any, so we're using prepared horseradish today. Going to use just a little bit of white wine vinegar, like maybe a teaspoon, so not much at all. And then we're going to throw in about a half a teaspoon of kosher salt and a half a teaspoon of cracked black pepper. It's probably a little more pepper, but I love pepper, so that's all right. And then we're just gonna mix it up. And after we get it good and mixed, we'll try it, see if it needs anything else. With the horseradish, there's probably a tablespoon in here. So, and if you get a little too much horseradish and it's too pungent, you can always add a little sour cream or a little more sour cream, or you could even add mayonnaise. Something like that will tone it down a little bit. So I think we got it good and mixed, so I'm gonna give it a try here. And that is really good. There's not a lot more I'm going to do to that. So that will be nice on our sandwich a little bit later. Okay, we have reached our internal temperature right around 135. So, that's looking really good. So I am ready to bring this inside. So we're going to take it inside. We're just going to leave it on the spit. And by the way, if you do this, that spit is hot. It's 350 degrees probably, maybe more. So we're just going to leave it on the spit on the cutting board, and we're going to loosely tin it with foil for quite a while actually. I want it to cool down quite a bit. So we will see you inside. So this video started out as just wanting to do some deli style roast beef. And then I got to thinking, let's make a roast beef sandwich. And then I got to thinking, let's make an Arby's roast beef sandwich, like maybe a beef and cheddar. So this is evolved. So I'm gonna do a little cheese sauce here to go with our roast beef and try a beef and cheddar. Roast beef's gonna be good no matter what. This sandwich, we'll see. So I'm starting out with Cheese Whiz. I'm gonna put a little salt, a little garlic powder in with that, just to add a little more flavor. I'm gonna let this thin out just a little bit. Got a little cast iron skillet here over a low flame. And gonna add just a little bit of milk. That might have even been too much, but that's all right. It'll be good. And then I think the other thing I'm gonna add is a little shredded cheese. I happen to have some shredded cheese here. If I would have thought about this sooner, I would have actually maybe used our smoked cheese that we did in another video and actually grated some of that up. Fresh grated is so much better than the bagged grated cheese, but this will do in a pinch. So we'll see how this is doing. I think it's looking good. It's just gotta come together. And adding the milk like I did to kind of make it smoother and creamier is also going to dilute the cheese. And believe it or not, there is actually cheese in Cheese Whiz. But I want to add just some shredded cheddar in order to make sure we have some good cheese flavor in there, especially after adding that milk. So that's going to come together, and those chunks of cheese will melt and incorporate, and I think this is going to be pretty good. I'm going to add just a little more heat for a minute. It's getting there. All right, I'm going to take a taste and see if I think it needs anything. It is going to need to continue to melt the last of that shredded cheese I put in, but it's getting there nicely. So let's try it. That's pretty awesome. That's gonna be good. So we'll let that continue to come together and we'll get it ready for our sandwich, and we'll bring you back when we cut our roast beef. So here's our roast beef. Looks great. I've let it rest probably about 30 minutes. Ideally, I would let this cool off and then put it in the fridge, and I wouldn't even slice it, maybe not until the next day. But we are planning on eating this for dinner tonight, and it's already late, so we're gonna go with it as it sits. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna cut it in half. Wow. I hope you can see the color of that on the camera. It looks great. So juicy inside. I'm actually going to use a deli slicer for this to do most of it, but I'll go ahead and use my cleaver here to cut off a slice. It's of course best if it's done really thin, and it's just dripping with juice. So good. Smells so good. And we'll give it a try. Flavor is great. Really juicy. The injection definitely helps that. Really, really, really good. So we're going to get the slicer set up to cut thin slices of this, and we'll end up packaging some of it up in the food saver, and we'll make ourselves a good sandwich out of this. So we'll bring you back in a minute. Okay, so I'm going to get this roast beef sliced up. I'm probably just going to fast forward through this, so you'll get the idea. My hand will probably cover up a lot of it, but we'll get our sizing right and get some thin slices. Okay, so we're going to make our beef and cheddar sandwich. So I've just got some buns that I got from the grocery store the other day. We'll cut it in half, and we'll take our horsey sauce, and I always do that on the bottom. I think it helps keep the bread from getting soggy. Doing a mayonnaise or sour cream base on the bottom, especially something with fat in it. So the water won't penetrate the fat very well. And I'm just going to grab some roast beef here. Get some thinner and thicker pieces. Doesn't really matter. All right, that's a good sized sandwich. Now, I was thinking about trying to make an Arby's sauce, just because this morphed into an Arby's video, sort of. But I happen to have this beet barbecue sauce from Leroy and Lewis. So I hope this is getting on the camera. This is a Arby's sauce living its best life. It's so good, so good. So I've got some of that in a squirt bottle. So I'm just going to add that to the other bun, the other side of the bun. And then we'll grab our cheese sauce, which has come together pretty well. And we'll just drip that on there. That looks like a pretty good amount right there. All right, and this sandwich is coming together. So I'm just going to use my knife here and cut that in half. I hope you can see that pretty well. I think it looks pretty good. And we will have to taste it. I think I'll taste this on camera just so I can look like a buffoon with sandwich all over my face. All right, so let's give her a try. That is so freaking good. Better than anything you'll get from Arby's. Plenty of roast beef left over that I'll vacuum seal, and then we'll have roast beef lunch meat. We can freeze it, take it out, thaw it, and use it over the next few months. A lot cheaper than buying it, and I don't think Boar's Head has anything on this. So, as usual, thanks for joining us here today at Buckeye Barbecue. Please do like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. And definitely try some deli roast beef yourself sometime.